My name is Eleanor Hayes, and I'm 72 years old. Last month, I sat in a lawyer's office and listened as my 3 adult children, the children I raised, loved, and sacrificed everything for, argued over my money like I was already dead. But I wasn't dead. I was sitting right there, and they didn't even care. Let me tell you about the moment I realized my family had betrayed me for money. The moment that changed everything. It was a Wednesday afternoon in late September. I'd called a family meeting at my lawyer's office to discuss something important. My children, Victoria, 50 years old, Marcus, 47 years old, and Linda, 44 years old, all came. They thought I was finally going to update my will and tell them how my estate would be divided when I died. They were half right. My lawyer, Mr. Harrison, sat at his desk with several folders in front of him. My 3 children sat in chairs across from him. I sat slightly to the side, watching them. "Thank you all for coming," Mr. Harrison began. "Your mother has asked me to read something to you today." Victoria leaned forward eagerly. She was my oldest, a real estate agent who always wore expensive clothes and drove a luxury car. "Is this about Mom's will?" "In a way," Mr. Harrison said. "But first, your mother wants me to read you a letter she's written." Marcus looked confused. He was my middle child, a financial advisor who liked to tell everyone how smart he was with money. "A letter? Mom, why didn't you just tell us whatever you want to say?" "Because I wanted it in writing," I said quietly, "so there would be no misunderstanding." Linda, my youngest, rolled her eyes. She was a marketing executive who was always busy with work and barely had time for family. "Can we just get to the point? I have a meeting in an hour." Mr. Harrison opened the folder and began reading my letter. "To my children, Victoria, Marcus, and Linda, I'm writing this letter because over the past year, I've noticed something that breaks my heart. You've become obsessed with my money. Every time you visit, you ask about my finances. You suggest I sell my house and move somewhere smaller. You hint that I should update my will. You've even argued among yourselves about who should get what when I die." Victoria's face turned red. "Mom, that's not—" "Let him finish," I said firmly. Mr. Harrison continued reading. "The problem is, you've forgotten something very important. I'm not dead yet. I'm 72 years old and I'm in perfect health. I could live another 20 years. But the way you talk, it's like you're waiting for me to die so you can inherit my money." Marcus started to speak, but Mr. Harrison held up his hand and kept reading. "So I've made a decision. I'm going to spend my money while I'm still alive. I've sold my house for $800,000. I have another $400,000 in savings and investments. That's $1.2 million total, and I'm going to spend it, all of it, on myself. On travel, on experiences, on helping people I care about. I'm going to enjoy my life and my money while I can still enjoy it." The room went completely silent. "Furthermore," Mr. Harrison read, "I'm updating my will today. When I die, whatever is left of my estate will be divided equally among you 3. But I'm making it very clear, I don't plan to leave much, because I'm going to live my life fully until the very end." Mr. Harrison put down the letter and looked at my children. Victoria's mouth was open in shock. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. Linda stared at me with an expression I'd never seen before, pure anger. "This is a joke, right?" Victoria finally said. "Mom, you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," I said. "But Mom," Marcus said, his voice rising, "that's irresponsible. You can't just spend all your money. What if you need long-term care? What if you have medical expenses?" "I have excellent health insurance," I said calmly. "And I've set aside enough for any potential medical needs. The rest is mine to spend however I want." "This is because of us, isn't it?" Linda said accusingly. "You're punishing us." "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm choosing to enjoy my own life and my own money. If you see that as punishment, that says more about your expectations than my actions." "But you promised," Victoria said. "You always said we'd inherit the house, that we'd be taken care of." "I said I'd take care of you when you were children," I corrected her. "And I did. I raised you, educated you, supported you until you were adults. Now you're 50, 47, and 44 years old. You have your own careers and your own money. You don't need my inheritance." "That's easy for you to say," Marcus said bitterly. "You're sitting on over $1 million. Do you know how much that would change our lives?" "You all make good money," I pointed out. "You have nice houses, nice cars, good careers. What exactly would you do with an inheritance that you can't do now?" They looked at each other, clearly uncomfortable with the question. "That's not the point," Victoria finally said. "The point is that money is supposed to be ours. We're your children. We deserve." "You deserve nothing," I interrupted, my voice sharp. "You didn't earn this money. I did. Your father and I worked our entire lives for it. And now that he's gone, it's mine to do with as I please." The room was tense with anger and resentment. "Is that all?" Linda asked coldly, standing up. "Are we done here?" "There's one more thing," Mr. Harrison said. He pulled out another document. "Your mother is also setting up a trust for her grandchildren's education. $100,000 will be placed in trust for each grandchild, to be used only for college or vocational training." I had 5 grandchildren total. Victoria had 2, Marcus had 2, and Linda had 1. "So you're taking $500,000 and giving it to the grandkids," Marcus said incredulously. "Money that should come to us." "Money that will actually help them," I said. "Unlike you 3, they haven't spent the last year hinting that I should hurry up and die so they can get their inheritance." "We never said that," Victoria protested. "You didn't have to say it," I said quietly. "I could see it in your eyes every time you visited, every time you asked about my plans, every time you suggested I was getting too old to manage my own finances." I stood up, suddenly tired of this conversation. "I raised you 3 to be better than this," I said. "I taught you about values, about family, about what really matters in life. Somewhere along the way, you forgot those lessons. You became obsessed with money, with what you'd inherit, with what you thought you deserved." I looked at each of them in turn. "So I'm taking my money and I'm going to live my life. I'm going to travel. I'm going to help people who need it. I'm going to enjoy every day I have left. And when I die, you'll get whatever's left, which might be a lot or might be nothing. But either way, you'll have learned an important lesson. You can't count on an inheritance. You have to build your own life." I turned to leave the office. "Mom, wait," Linda called after me. "You can't just—" "Yes, I can," I said without turning around. "It's my money, and I'm done apologizing for wanting to enjoy it." I walked out of that office, leaving my 3 children sitting in stunned, angry silence. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought they'd be upset for a while, but eventually they'd understand. Eventually they'd accept my decision and we'd move forward as a family. I was wrong. Because what happened next was worse than I could have ever imagined. My children, my own children, betrayed me in a way that would change our family forever. Before we continue, if you're shocked by how these adult children are treating their elderly mother and you want to see what happens next, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Hit like if you think Eleanor has every right to spend her own money however she wants. And turn on a notifications bell so you don't miss the rest of this story. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Are you in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Nigeria, Kenya, Jamaica, South Africa? Let me know who's with me on this journey. Now let's get back to Eleanor's story. To understand how I ended up in that lawyer's office, you need to know what led to that moment. You need to know about the 6 months of subtle and not so subtle hints from my children that made me realize they were more interested in my money than in me. It started last March, 6 months before the lawyer's office meeting. My husband Robert had died 2 years earlier at the age of 74. We'd been married for 50 years. His death had been hard, but I'd been coping. I had friends, I had hobbies, I had my book club and my garden and my volunteer work at the local hospital. I was lonely sometimes, but I was managing. My house was a 4-bedroom home in a nice neighborhood. Robert and I had bought it 40 years ago when the kids were young. We'd raised our family there. Every room held memories. After Robert died, all 3 of my children had immediately started suggesting I sell the house. It's too big for just you, Mom, Victoria had said. You should downsize to a condo, something easier to maintain. Think of all the equity you have in this house, Marcus had added. You could sell it, buy something smaller, and have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest. We're just worried about you being in this big house alone, Linda had said. What if something happens and you can't get help? At first, I thought they were genuinely concerned about me, but then I started noticing other things. Victoria had started visiting more often, which was nice at first, but every visit she'd walk through the house, looking at things. Mom, this antique furniture is really valuable, she'd say. Have you thought about what you're going to do with it? Or, this painting is probably worth a lot. You should get it appraised. Or, are you planning to leave the jewelry to me? Because I've always loved Grandma's pearls. Marcus started asking intrusive questions about my finances. Mom, are your investments diversified? He'd ask. Are you maximizing your returns? I could help you manage your portfolio. How much did you get from Dad's life insurance? He wanted to know. Have you updated your will since Dad died? He'd inquire. You really should make sure everything is in order. Linda was less subtle. She'd openly suggest things I should do with my money. You should help me with a down payment on a bigger house, she'd say. Your granddaughter needs her own room. My car is getting old. Maybe you could help me get a new one. Consider it an advance on my inheritance. You're not getting any younger, Mom. You should start giving us money now instead of making us wait until you're gone. It's smarter for tax purposes. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself they meant well. They were just looking out for me. But then came the incident that opened my eyes. It was a Sunday in late April. I'd invited all 3 children and their families over for dinner. It was something I did once a month, a family dinner where we could all catch up and spend time together. After dinner, the adults were sitting in the living room having coffee while the grandchildren played in the yard. I'd gone to the kitchen to get more cream for the coffee. That's when I heard them, my 3 children, talking in the dining room. They didn't know I was in the kitchen. They thought I was still outside with the grandchildren. I'm telling you, we need to talk to her about this, Victoria was saying. She's 72 years old. She could live another 10 or 15 years. That's a long time for that house to just sit there. I agree, Marcus said. And honestly, I'm worried about her finances. She won't let me look at her portfolio. What if she's making bad decisions? What if she's losing money? The real problem is she won't talk about the will, Linda said. We have no idea how she's planning to divide everything. What if she leaves it all to one person? What if she leaves half to charity? She wouldn't do that, Victoria said. Would she? I don't know, Marcus said. She's been acting weird lately, more independent, like she doesn't want our input. Maybe we should talk to a lawyer, Linda suggested. Find out what our options are. What do you mean options? Victoria asked. I mean, if Mom isn't capable of managing her own finances, maybe we could get power of attorney for her own protection. I stood in the kitchen, frozen. Power of attorney. They wanted to take control of my finances. That seems extreme, Marcus said, but he didn't sound entirely opposed to the idea. I'm just saying we should explore it, Linda said. Mom has over $1 million in assets. We need to make sure that money is protected, for all of us. You mean for you, Victoria said with a laugh. You're the one who keeps asking for money. And you're the one who keeps asking about the furniture and jewelry, Linda shot back. At least I'm honest about wanting money. Can we not fight? Marcus said. We're all in the same boat here. We all want to make sure we get what we're entitled to when Mom dies. When I die, not if I die, when. Like it was inevitable, like they were waiting for it. I walked back into the dining room, making enough noise that they'd hear me coming. They immediately changed the subject, started talking about the weather and their kids' soccer games. All smiles and pleasant conversation. But I'd heard them. I knew the truth. My children weren't concerned about me. They were concerned about my money. After I overheard that conversation, I started paying closer attention to my children's behavior, and what I saw broke my heart. Every visit was motivated by money. Every phone call had an ulterior motive. Victoria would call and chat pleasantly for a few minutes, then casually mention, "By the way, Mom, have you thought more about selling the house? I found a great real estate agent who specializes in estate sales." Marcus would stop by and bring me lunch, then spend the whole time asking about my finances. "Mom, seriously, let me help you. I'm a financial advisor. It's what I do. You're probably not maximizing your returns." Linda would invite me to her daughter's school play, then on the drive there, she'd say, "Mom, I was thinking, you have that beach house that you never use anymore. You should just give it to me now instead of waiting. It's sitting empty most of the year anyway." The beach house was a small vacation property Robert and I had bought 30 years ago. It wasn't worth much, maybe $150,000, but it held so many family memories. I'd watch my grandchildren playing and wonder, did my children love me, or did they just love my money? I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. I tried to believe they were genuinely concerned about me. But then came the incident that made me certain. My 72nd birthday was in early August. I'd mentioned to my children that I didn't want a big fuss, just a quiet dinner at my house with family. Victoria offered to organize it. "I'll take care of everything, Mom. You just relax and enjoy your day." The morning of my birthday, Victoria, Marcus, and Linda all showed up at my house early. They said they wanted to set up and decorate. "Why don't you go get your hair done, Mom?" Victoria suggested. "Our treat. We made you an appointment at that salon you like. We'll have everything ready when you get back." It seemed sweet, thoughtful, so I went. I was gone for 3 hours, haircut, style, manicure. When I came back, the house looked beautiful. Balloons, flowers, a lovely table set for dinner. "This is wonderful," I said, genuinely touched. "Thank you." "Anything for you, Mom," Marcus said. We had a nice dinner. The grandchildren gave me cards they'd made. My children gave me gifts, a cashmere sweater from Victoria, a spa day certificate from Linda, a nice watch from Marcus. It was a lovely evening. I felt guilty for doubting them. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe they did care about me, not just my money. Then, after the grandchildren had gone home, and it was just me and my 3 adult children, Victoria said, "Mom, there's one more thing. We have something we need to talk to you about." They all sat down at my dining room table with serious expressions. Victoria pulled out a folder of papers. "We've been thinking a lot about your future," Victoria began, "about how to make sure you're taken care of as you get older." "I'm taking care of myself just fine," I said, a cold feeling starting in my stomach. "We know you think that," Marcus said. "But Mom, you're 72, things change. What if you get sick? What if you fall? What if you can't manage anymore?" "So we've consulted with a lawyer," Linda said. "And we've drawn up some papers. It's a power of attorney. It would give us the legal right to help manage your finances and make decisions about your care if you're unable to." I stared at them. This was what they'd been planning. This was the real reason for the birthday party. "You want me to sign over control of my finances to you," I said slowly. "It's not signing over control," Victoria said quickly. "It's just a safety net, in case something happens." "I don't need a safety net," I said firmly. "I'm perfectly capable of managing my own affairs." "Mom, please just look at the papers," Marcus urged. "Our lawyer says it's a smart thing to do at your age. It would make everything so much easier." "For who?" I asked. "For me, or for you 3? They looked uncomfortable. "Mom, that's not fair," Linda said. "We're trying to help you." "No," I said, standing up. "You're trying to take control of my money while I'm still alive. Did you really think I'd just sign this? On my birthday?" "Mom, you're overreacting," Victoria started. "Get out," I said. "What?" Marcus said. "Get out of my house, all of you, now." "Mom, come on, let's talk about this like adults," Victoria said. "I am talking like an adult," I said, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. "An adult who just realized her children organized a birthday party as a manipulation tactic. An adult who won't be tricked into signing away her rights. Get out." They left, slowly, reluctantly, making it clear they thought I was being unreasonable. But I knew I wasn't. I knew exactly what they'd tried to do. And that's when I decided to see a lawyer myself, to protect myself, to make sure my children understood that my money was mine, not theirs. That's what led to the meeting in Mr. Harrison's office 6 weeks later. The meeting where I told them I was spending my inheritance. The meeting where I thought I was taking control of my own life. But I had no idea what my children would do next. I had no idea how far they'd be willing to go to get their hands on my money. And I had no idea that within 2 weeks, I'd be sitting in a hospital bed, recovering from a mysterious accident, while my children tried to have me declared mentally incompetent. If you're getting hooked, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button if you think these kids are about to learn a hard lesson, and turn on notifications. 2 weeks after the meeting in Mr. Harrison's office, I woke up in a hospital bed with a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a fractured wrist. I had no memory of how I got there. The last thing I clearly remembered was walking down the stairs in my house to make breakfast. Then, nothing, just a blank space. Then waking up in the hospital with a nurse leaning over me asking if I knew my name. "Eleanor Hayes," I'd said groggily. "What happened? Where am I?" "You're at St. Mary's Hospital," the nurse said gently. "You had a fall down your stairs. Your daughter found you and called 911. "Which daughter?" I asked. "Victoria," the nurse said. "She's in the waiting room with your other children. They've been here all night. Would you like me to send them in?" I wanted to say no. After what had happened in the lawyer's office, I hadn't spoken to any of my children. They'd each tried calling me several times, leaving voicemails that ranged from angry to pleading, but I hadn't responded. But I was in a hospital bed. I was hurt, and despite everything, they were still my children. "Okay," I said quietly. A few minutes later, Victoria, Marcus, and Linda walked into my hospital room. They all looked tired and worried. Victoria had tears in her eyes. "Mom," Victoria said, rushing to my bedside. "Thank God you're awake. We were so worried." "What happened?" I asked. "How did I fall?" "We don't know," Marcus said, standing at the foot of my bed. "Victoria found you at the bottom of your stairs this morning. You were unconscious." "This morning," I repeated, confused. "What day is it?" "It's Thursday," Linda said. "October 12th. Mom, what's the last thing you remember?" I tried to think. I remember. Wednesday morning. Yesterday morning, I was going to make breakfast. I was going down the stairs to the kitchen. And then, nothing. "The doctor said you have a concussion," Victoria explained. "It's normal to have memory gaps. You might not ever remember the actual fall." "But how did you find me?" I asked Victoria. "Why were you at my house?" Victoria and Marcus exchanged a glance. Something about that look made me uneasy. "I stopped by to talk to you," Victoria said. "I've been trying to reach you for 2 weeks, and you haven't returned any of my calls. So I used the spare key you gave me and let myself in. That's when I found you. You'd been lying there for hours, Mom. You could have died." The way she said it, "You could have died," sounded almost accusatory, like she was blaming me for being hurt. "Thank you for finding me," I said carefully, "and for calling 911. "Of course," Victoria said. "We're your children. We'll always be here for you." But the way she said it didn't sound comforting. It sounded like a warning. Later that morning, my doctor came to check on me. Dr. Patterson was a woman in her 50s who'd been my physician for over a decade. "How are you feeling, Eleanor?" Dr. Patterson asked, checking my chart. "Confused," I admitted. "And sore, everything hurts." "That's to be expected," Dr. Patterson said. "You took quite a tumble. 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and a moderate concussion. You're lucky you didn't break your hip or your neck." "Do you know what caused the fall?" I asked. Dr. Patterson hesitated. "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Eleanor, have you been experiencing any dizziness lately? Any balance issues?" "No," I said. "Nothing like that. I'm in good health for my age." "Your children mentioned you might be having some memory problems," Dr. Patterson said. They said you've been forgetful recently, confused about things. I felt a chill run through me. That's not true. Who told you that? Your daughter, Victoria, Dr. Patterson said. She's quite concerned about you. She mentioned you've been making some unusual financial decisions. She thinks you might need to be evaluated for early dementia. I don't have dementia, I said firmly. Dr. Patterson, you've been my doctor for 10 years. Have you ever seen any signs of cognitive decline in me? Dr. Patterson looked at me carefully. No, I haven't. Your mental acuity has always been excellent. But Eleanor, your children are very worried. And this fall, it's concerning. Falls are often a sign that someone is struggling more than they realize. I didn't fall because I'm losing my faculties, I said. I fell because I don't know why I fell. Maybe I tripped. Maybe I was dizzy for a moment, but it was an accident, nothing more. I hope you're right, Dr. Patterson said. I'm going to order some tests just to be safe. We'll check your balance, your blood pressure, make sure there's nothing underlying causing these symptoms. After Dr. Patterson left, I lay in bed thinking. My children were telling people I had memory problems, that I was making unusual financial decisions. They were building a case, trying to prove I wasn't competent to manage my own affairs. And this fall, this convenient fall that I couldn't remember, fit perfectly into their narrative. A terrible thought occurred to me. What if it wasn't an accident? That afternoon, Victoria came back to the hospital alone. She pulled a chair up beside my bed and sat down with a concerned expression. Mom, we need to talk, Victoria said. About what? I asked warily. About what happens when you get out of the hospital, Victoria said. Dr. Patterson says you'll need at least 6 weeks to recover. You can't be alone in that big house. You can't climb stairs. You can't take care of yourself. I'll hire a nurse, I said. Or I'll stay on the first floor of the house. I'll manage. That's not safe, Victoria insisted. Mom, you just had a serious fall. What if it happens again? What if next time no one finds you in time? What are you suggesting? I asked, though I had a feeling I knew. I think you should come stay with me, Victoria said. Just temporarily while you recover. I have that guest room on the first floor. I can take care of you, make sure you're safe. That's kind of you to offer, I said carefully, but I'd rather recover in my own home. Mom, please, Victoria said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. I feel terrible about how things went at the lawyer's office. I know we upset you, but we're still your family. We still love you. Let us help you. I'll think about it, I said, not wanting to commit to anything while my head was still foggy from the concussion. There's something else, Victoria said, pulling some papers out of her purse. The hospital needs to know who to contact in case of emergencies, who has medical power of attorney. I brought these forms for you to sign. It would just give me the authority to make medical decisions if you're unconscious or unable to make them yourself. I stared at the papers. You want medical power of attorney. It's just a precaution, Victoria said. Mom, you were unconscious for hours. What if something serious had happened? The doctors wouldn't have been able to talk to anyone about your care. This just makes things easier. I'll have Mr. Harrison draw up the proper documents, I said. If I'm going to give someone medical power of attorney, I want my lawyer to handle it. Victoria's face tightened. Mom, this is a standard hospital form. There's no need to involve lawyers. I'm your daughter. Don't you trust me? The honest answer was, no, I didn't, not anymore. But I couldn't say that, so instead I said, I'm very tired. Can we discuss this later? Victoria looked frustrated. But she put the papers back in her purse. Fine, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Get some rest, Mom. After she left, I pressed the call button for the nurse. Can you do me a favor? I asked when the nurse came in. Can you make a note in my chart that I do not consent to anyone making medical decisions for me? And if anyone tries to get me to sign any legal documents, I want the hospital's legal team notified immediately. The nurse looked surprised. Are you concerned about something, Mrs. Hayes? I'm concerned that my children are more interested in controlling my life than in helping me, I said. Please, just make the note. I'll let the charge nurse know, she said, looking uncomfortable. That night, I couldn't sleep. Despite the pain medication, my mind was racing. The fall didn't make sense. I'd walked up and down those stairs thousands of times. I wasn't careless. I always held the railing. And I couldn't remember anything. Not the fall itself, not the moments before it, just nothing. What if it hadn't been an accident? The thought was horrifying, but the more I considered it, the more possible it seemed. Victoria had a key to my house. She could have come in at any time, and she'd been the one to find me. What if she'd been there when I fell? What if she'd caused the fall? No, that was crazy. She was my daughter. She wouldn't try to hurt me. Would she? I thought about the conversation I'd overheard months ago. We need to talk to a lawyer, find out what our options are. If Mom isn't capable of managing her own finances, maybe we could get power of attorney. They wanted control of my money, and the easiest way to get that control was to prove I was incompetent. A fall, memory problems, confusion, all of those things supported the narrative that I couldn't take care of myself. I needed help, but who could I trust? The next morning, I asked the nurse if I could use the hospital phone to make a private call. She brought me a cordless phone and closed the door to give me privacy. I called my best friend, Margaret. We'd been friends for 40 years. If anyone could help me, it was Margaret. "Eleanor," Margaret exclaimed when she answered. "I just heard about your fall. Are you okay?" "I need your help," I said quietly. "Margaret, something isn't right. I think my children might have. I think they might be trying to hurt me." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Margaret said carefully, "What do you mean?" I told her everything. The conversation I'd overheard. The birthday party manipulation. The lawyer's meeting. The fall I couldn't remember. Victoria's convenient timing in finding me. "I know it sounds paranoid," I finished. "But Margaret, I'm scared. I don't trust them anymore, and I don't know what to do." "You need to talk to the police," Margaret said immediately. "And tell them what? That I think my daughter pushed me down the stairs, but I have no memory of it and no proof," I said. "They'll think I'm a confused old woman. They'll think I'm paranoid, which is exactly what my children want people to think." "Then what do you want to do?" Margaret asked. "I need to get out of this hospital before my children convince the doctors I'm incompetent," I said. "And I need somewhere safe to stay while I recover, somewhere my children don't know about." "You can stay with me," Margaret said immediately. "I have a spare bedroom. I'll take care of you." "Are you sure?" I asked, relief flooding through me. "Eleanor, we've been friends for 40 years, Margaret said firmly. "Of course I'm sure. When do they discharge you?" "Tomorrow, I think," I said. "I'll be there to pick you up," Margaret promised. "Don't tell your children where you're going. Just leave with me. We'll figure out the rest once you're safe." The next morning, Dr. Patterson came to discharge me. "You're healing well," she said. "But Eleanor, you need to be careful. No stairs for at least 6 weeks. You need someone with you at all times. If you fall again and hit your head, it could be very serious." "I understand," I said. "I'll be careful." "Your daughter Victoria called this morning," Dr. Patterson added. "She said she's coming to pick you up and take you to her house to recover." "Actually, I've made other arrangements," I said. "My friend Margaret is picking me up. I'll be staying with her." Dr. Patterson looked surprised. "Does Victoria know that?" "No," I admitted. "And I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell her. I'll let her know myself once I'm settled." Dr. Patterson looked uncomfortable. "Eleanor, your children are very concerned about you. They care about your well-being." "I'm sure they do," I said, not bothering to hide the sarcasm in my voice. At 10 a.m., a nurse came to take me down to the hospital entrance in a wheelchair. Margaret was waiting in her car at the curb. "Let's get you out of here," Margaret said, helping me carefully into the passenger seat. As we drove away from the hospital, I looked back and saw Victoria's car pulling into the parking lot. She'd come to collect me, to take me to her house where she could control me, monitor me, build her case that I was incompetent. But I'd escaped. For now. Margaret's house was a cozy 2-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood about 20 minutes from where I lived. She'd set up the guest room with fresh sheets, flowers on the nightstand, and a stack of books on the dresser. "I want you to feel at home here," Margaret said as she helped me get settled. "Stay as long as you need to." "Thank you," I said, my eyes filling with tears. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'd manage," Margaret said briskly. "You're the strongest woman I know, Eleanor Hayes. Don't let those children of yours make you doubt that." That afternoon, my cell phone started ringing. "Victoria," I didn't answer. The phone rang again. "Marcus," I didn't answer again. "Linda." Then the voicemail started. "Victoria, Mom, where are you? The hospital said you left with a friend. What friend? Why didn't you tell me? Call me back immediately. I'm worried sick." "Marcus, Mom, Victoria said you disappeared from the hospital. What's going on? This isn't like you. Are you confused? Do you need help? Please call one of us." "Linda, Mom, this is ridiculous. You can't just vanish after a serious injury. We're your children. We have a right to know where you are and that you're safe. Call me back." I didn't call any of them back. Instead, I called Mr. Harrison, my lawyer. "Eleanor, I heard about your fall," Mr. Harrison said when he answered. "How are you feeling?" "Suspicious," I said. "Mr. Harrison, I need your help. I think my children might be trying to have me declared incompetent so they can take control of my finances." I told him about the fall, about Victoria trying to get me to sign medical power of attorney papers, about my children telling doctors I had memory problems. "This is serious," Mr. Harrison said. "Eleanor, do you have any proof your fall wasn't an accident?" "No," I admitted. "Just a gut feeling, but Mr. Harrison, I'm scared. I don't trust them anymore." "Here's what we're going to do," Mr. Harrison said. "First, I'm going to file an emergency protective order on your behalf. It will legally prevent your children from accessing your home or your financial accounts without your explicit permission. Second, I'm going to draft a very clear advance directive that specifies exactly who does and does not have medical power of attorney. And third, I'm going to recommend you hire a private investigator." "A private investigator," I repeated. "Why?" "Because if your children are planning something, we need to know about it," Mr. Harrison said. "We need evidence, and a good pie can find it." "That seems extreme," I said hesitantly. "Eleanor, you're talking about your children potentially causing you physical harm to get access to your money," Mr. Harrison said bluntly. "That's not just extreme, that's criminal. We need to take this seriously." He was right. I knew he was right. "Okay," I said. "Do it, all of it." 3 days later, I met with the private investigator Mr. Harrison had recommended. Her name was Denise Carter, and she was a former police detective who now ran her own investigation firm. We met at Margaret's house. Denise was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a direct manner. "Tell me everything," Denise said, pulling out a notebook. I told her the whole story. Everything from the overheard conversation months ago to the suspicious fall to my escape from the hospital. Denise took notes as I talked, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, reviewing her notes. "Okay," Denise finally said. "Here's what I think. Your children are definitely planning something. The question is how far they're willing to go. The fall is suspicious, but without proof, it's just your word against theirs. What we need to do is gather evidence of their intentions." "How do we do that?" I asked. "I'm going to start by investigating their finances," Denise said. "Often, when people are desperate for money, there's a reason. Maybe they have debts you don't know about. Maybe they've made bad investments. We need to understand their motivation." "What else?" I asked. "I'm going to install some security measures at your house," Denise said. "Cameras, recording devices. If any of your children try to access your home, which they shouldn't be doing if you've revoked their permission, we'll have it on record. And if they try anything else, we'll catch it." "This feels so cloak and dagger," I said with a weak laugh. "It is," Denise agreed. "But Mrs. Hayes, if your children are willing to hurt you to get your money, then this is necessary. Better to be paranoid and safe than trusting and dead." The bluntness of her words hit me. Dead. That's what could happen if I didn't protect myself. "Do it," I said firmly. Whatever you need to do, I want to know the truth. Over the next week, Denise worked quickly. She installed hidden cameras at my house in the living room, the kitchen, the hallway, and at both entrances. She also put a recorder on my home phone line. If anyone enters your house, we'll know, Denise assured me. And if they use your phone or go through your things, we'll have video evidence. While I recovered at Margaret's house, Denise investigated my children's finances. What she found was illuminating. She came to Margaret's house one afternoon with a folder full of documents. "I need to show you something," Denise said, spreading papers across Margaret's dining room table. "Your children are in serious financial trouble, all three of them." She pointed to the first set of documents. "Victoria, she owns a real estate agency, and from the outside it looks successful. But I pulled her business records. She's nearly $300,000 in debt. The real estate market has been slow, she made some bad investments, and she's been using credit cards to keep the business afloat. She's drowning." Denise pointed to another set of documents. "Marcus, he's a financial advisor, so everyone assumes he's good with money. But he's not. He's been day trading with his own money and losing badly. He's lost about $200,000 in the stock market over the past 2 years. His wife doesn't know. He's been hiding the losses from her." Finally, Denise pointed to the last set of documents. "Linda, she and her husband are behind on their mortgage, 3 months behind. They're facing foreclosure on their $800,000 house. Linda's husband lost his job 6 months ago and hasn't found a new one. They're desperate." I stared at the papers, stunned. I had no idea. "They didn't want you to know," Denise said. "Because if you knew they were in financial trouble, you might not trust them with your money. But Mrs. Hayes, this is important. All 3 of your children are in desperate financial situations, and desperate people do desperate things." "Like push their mother down the stairs," I said quietly. "Exactly," Denise confirmed. "But we still don't have proof that's what happened," I said. "Not yet," Denise agreed. "But I have a feeling we will soon, because desperate people make mistakes, and when they do, we'll be ready to catch them." 2 days later, Denise called me with excitement in her voice. "I got something. The recording device on your home phone picked up a call." "What kind of call?" I asked. "Your son Marcus called your house yesterday," Denise said. "He must have thought you were home, or maybe he was just leaving a message. But Mrs. Hayes, he talked for 3 minutes, and he said some very interesting things." "What did he say?" I asked, my heart pounding. "I'm sending you the recording now," Denise said. "Listen to it and call me back." A minute later, my email pinged. I opened the audio file and pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room. "Mom, it's Marcus. I know you're not answering your phone. I know you're angry at us. But Mom, this has gone too far. You're acting paranoid and irrational. You're hiding from your own children. This isn't normal behavior." A pause, then, "Victoria told me what happened at the hospital. How you refused to sign the medical power of attorney forms. How you snuck out with some friend. Mom, can't you see? This is exactly the kind of behavior that proves you're not competent to make your own decisions anymore." Another pause. "We didn't want to do this, but you're leaving us no choice. We've consulted with a lawyer. We're going to petition the court to have you declared legally incompetent. We're going to present evidence. The fall, the memory loss, your recent erratic financial decisions, your paranoid behavior. And Mom, we're going to win. Because the evidence clearly shows you can't take care of yourself anymore." My blood ran cold. "Once we have legal guardianship over you," Marcus continued, "we'll make sure you get the care you need. We'll sell the house. It's too big for you anyway. We'll manage your finances responsibly. We'll put you somewhere safe where you can't hurt yourself. This is for your own good, Mom. Even if you can't see it now, someday you'll thank us." A final pause. "Call me back. Let's work this out before it gets to court. Please, Mom, we're your children. We love you. Let us help you." The recording ended. I sat in silence, trembling with rage and fear. They were going to have me declared incompetent. They were going to take everything from me, my house, my money, my freedom. They were going to lock me away in a nursing home and take control of my life. And they thought they were doing it, for my own good. I called Denise back. "Did you hear it?" Denise asked. "Yes," I said, my voice shaking. "What do I do?" "We fight back," Denise said firmly. "Mrs. Hayes, this recording is evidence of their intent. They're planning to have you declared incompetent, not because you are incompetent, but because they want your money. That's exploitation. That's abuse. And we're not going to let them get away with it." "How do we fight back?" I asked. "We gather more evidence," Denise said. "We build a case, and then we beat them at their own game. But Mrs. Hayes, I need to warn you, this is going to get ugly. Are you ready for that?" I thought about my 3 children, the Bobbies I'd held, the children I'd raised, the adults who now saw me as nothing more than a source of money. I'd lost them already. They weren't my children anymore. They were strangers who wanted to steal my life. "I'm ready," I said firmly. "Whatever it takes, I'm ready to fight." And that's when the real battle began. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The court hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks away. 3 weeks for me to prepare. 3 weeks for my children to build their case that I was incompetent. And 3 weeks for me to prove they were wrong. "We need to be strategic about this," Mr. Harrison said. We were meeting in his office, me, Mr. Harrison, and Denise, the private investigator. Margaret had driven me there and was waiting outside. "Your children are going to present evidence that you're not capable of managing your own affairs," Mr. Harrison continued. "They'll talk about the fall. They'll say you're paranoid. They'll claim you're making irrational financial decisions. We need to counter every single one of those claims with solid evidence." "What kind of evidence?" I asked. "Medical records showing you're in excellent health," Mr. Harrison said. "Cognitive tests proving you have no dementia or memory issues. Character witnesses who can testify to your competence. And most importantly, we need to expose your children's real motivation, their own financial desperation." "I can help with that," Denise said, pulling out her folder. "I've gathered extensive financial records on all 3 of them, but Mrs. Hayes, we need more. We need to prove they're acting out of greed, not concern for you." "How do we do that?" I asked. "We catch them doing something they shouldn't," Denise said simply. "We already have Marcus's phone recording admitting they're planning to sell your house and control your finances. But we need more. We need to show a pattern of exploitation." "The cameras at my house," I said. "Have they caught anything?" Denise smiled grimly. "Actually, yes, that's what I wanted to show you today." She pulled out her laptop and opened a video file. This was recorded 2 days ago, Wednesday afternoon. The video showed my living room. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the front door opened and Victoria walked in. She was using her key, the spare key I'd given her years ago for emergencies. I watched as Victoria walked through my living room, looking around. She went to the bookshelf and started examining things. She picked up a small antique clock that had belonged to my grandmother. "That clock is worth about $2,000, I murmured. On the video, Victoria looked at the clock, then set it down and moved to the china cabinet. She opened it and started looking through the dishes and glassware inside. Then she pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. Pictures of my antiques, pictures of my furniture, pictures of my jewelry box sitting on the side table. "She's cataloging everything," I said, horrified. "She's already planning how to sell my belongings." "Keep watching," Denise said. On the video, Victoria's phone rang. She answered it. "Hey, it's me," Victoria said. "Yeah, I'm at Mom's house now. She's still hiding at that friend's house. Yes, I'm taking pictures of everything. The antiques alone are probably worth $50,000. The furniture is another $20,000 easy. I know. But once we get guardianship, we can sell it all. She won't be able to stop us." My hands clenched into fists. Victoria continued talking on the phone. "The house should sell for $800,000. After we split it 3 ways, that's over $250,000 each, plus her investment accounts. Marcus, we could each walk away with $500,000. That would solve all our problems." So she was talking to Marcus. They were planning this together. "No, I don't feel bad," Victoria said sharply. "Mom brought this on herself. If she'd just been reasonable about the inheritance, none of this would be necessary. But she decided to spend all her money on herself. She's being selfish. So yeah, I think we're completely justified in doing this." Victoria hung up and continued photographing my belongings. Then she left, locking the door behind her. The video ended. I sat in stunned silence. "That's breaking and entering," Mr. Harrison said. "You revoked her permission to be in your house. She no longer has legal right to use that key. This is trespassing at minimum." "It's also evidence of intent," Denise added. "She's not checking on you out of concern. She's cataloging your assets so she can sell them. This proves their motivation is financial, not protective." "Can we use this in court?" I asked. "Absolutely," Mr. Harrison said. "In fact, this might be enough to get their entire petition thrown out. But Mrs. Hayes, I think we should go further." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I think we should file countercharges," Mr. Harrison said. "Elder abuse, attempted exploitation, trespassing. We have the evidence now. We can go on the offensive instead of just defending yourself." I thought about it. My children were trying to have me declared incompetent and take control of my life. They'd already caused me to have a mysterious fall that I still couldn't remember. They were invading my home and planning to sell my belongings. "Yes," I said firmly. "Do it. I want them held accountable for what they're trying to do." The first step was proving I was mentally competent. Mr. Harrison arranged for me to be evaluated by Dr. Robert Chen, a geriatric psychiatrist who specialized in competency evaluations. Dr. Chen's office was in a medical building downtown. Margaret drove me to the appointment and waited in the lobby while I went in. Dr. Chen was a kind-looking man in his 60s with gray hair and gentle eyes. "Mrs. Hayes, please have a seat. I understand you're going through a difficult time with your family." "That's putting it mildly," I said. For the next 3 hours, Dr. Chen put me through a battery of tests. Memory tests where I had to recall lists of words. Problem-solving tests where I had to figure out puzzles. Questions about current events, about my personal history, about my financial situation. "Can you tell me what you had for breakfast this morning?" Dr. Chen asked. "Oatmeal with blueberries and a cup of coffee," I answered. "Can you count backwards from 100 by sevens?" he asked. 100, 93, 86, 79, 72, 65. I continued until he stopped me. "Can you explain your financial situation to me?" he asked. "I have approximately $1.2 million in total assets," I said. "About $400,000 in investment accounts, and I recently sold my house for $800,000. I'm living temporarily with a friend while I decide what to do next. I have no debts. My monthly expenses are minimal. I could live comfortably for another 30 years on what I have, even if I spent modestly." "That's a very clear and rational assessment," Dr. Chen noted, writing in his notebook. After all the tests were done, Dr. Chen sat back and looked at me with a slight smile. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm going to be very direct with you," he said. "There is absolutely nothing wrong with your cognitive functioning. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning skills are sharp. Your understanding of your financial situation is clear and realistic. You scored in the top percentile for your age group on every single test I gave you." Relief flooded through me. "So you'll testify that I'm competent?" "I'll do more than that," Dr. Chen said. "I'll testify that you're remarkably sharp for your age. In fact, I'd say you're more competent than many people half your age. Mrs. Hayes, there is no medical justification for having you declared incompetent. None whatsoever." "Thank you," I said, tears of relief in my eyes. "There's something else I need to tell you," Dr. Chen said, his expression becoming more serious. "In my professional opinion, your family is engaging in elder abuse. What they're doing, trying to have you declared incompetent when you clearly are competent, is a form of financial exploitation. It's abuse, pure and simple." "Will you put that in your report?" I asked. "Already planning to," Dr. Chen confirmed. Mrs. Hayes, I see cases like this more often than you'd think. Adult children who see their parents as walking bank accounts instead of human beings. It's heartbreaking. But you're fighting back, and I respect that. I'll do everything I can to help you. That evening, Denise called me with an idea. I want to set a trap, Denise said. I want to see how far your children are willing to go. What kind of trap? I asked warily. I want you to go back to your house, Denise said. Not to stay, just to visit, to check on things, but I want you to tell your children you'll be there. Let them know exactly when you'll be at the house alone. Why would I do that? I asked. Because I want to see if they try something, Denise said. If they're desperate enough, if they think they have an opportunity, they might do something that gives us even more evidence. And don't worry, I'll be there the whole time, watching. You'll be completely safe. It was risky, but we needed more evidence, and I was tired of hiding. Okay, I said, let's do it. The next morning, I called Victoria from Margaret's house. It was the first time I'd spoken to any of my children since leaving the hospital 2 weeks ago. Mom, Victoria answered on the first ring. Where have you been? We've been so worried. I'm fine, I said coolly. I've been staying with a friend. Why didn't you tell us? Victoria asked, her voice mixing hurt with anger. We're your children. We have a right to know you're safe. I'm 72 years old, I said. I don't need permission to stay with a friend. Mom, we need to talk, Victoria said. About what happened at Mr. Harrison's office, about your fall, about everything. I agree, I said. In fact, I'm going to the house tomorrow afternoon around 2 p.m. to pick up some things. If you want to talk, you can meet me there. There was a pause. At the house, tomorrow at 2. Yes, I confirmed. Just you. I don't want Marcus and Linda there. I want to talk to you privately. Okay, Victoria said, a strange tone in her voice. I'll be there. Mom, I'm glad you called. I miss you. See you tomorrow, I said and hung up. Denise, who'd been listening to the call, nodded approvingly. Good. Now we wait and see what happens. The next afternoon, Margaret drove me to my house. Denise was already there, hidden in a van parked down the street. She had visual access to all the camera feeds and was ready to call the police if anything went wrong. Are you sure about this? Margaret asked worriedly as we pulled into my driveway. I'm sure, I said. Whatever happens, we need to know the truth. Margaret waited in the car while I went inside. The house felt strange, like it wasn't mine anymore, like I was visiting someone else's home. I walked through the rooms, seeing what Victoria had been photographing. My antiques, my furniture, my memories. At exactly 2 p.m., Victoria's car pulled into the driveway. But Victoria wasn't alone. Marcus and Linda were with her. I felt a chill. I'd specifically said to come alone, but all 3 of my children were here. They walked up to the front door and rang the bell. I opened it, my heart pounding. I said just Victoria, I said. We're a family, Marcus said. We're in this together. They pushed past me into the house. I noticed Linda was carrying a large purse, bigger than normal. Mom, we need to talk, Victoria said, her voice taking on a tone I'd never heard before. Hard, determined. About what? I asked, standing near the door, wishing Margaret would come in. But Margaret was staying in the car as we'd planned, ready to call for help if needed. About you, Linda said. About how you're acting, about how you're destroying this family. I'm destroying the family, I repeated, incredulous. Yes, Marcus said. Mom, you announced you're spending all your inheritance. You cut us off. You won't let us help you. You had a serious fall and then you disappeared. You're acting paranoid and irrational. I'm acting rational, I said firmly. I'm protecting myself from children who care more about my money than about me. That's not true, Victoria said, but she didn't sound convincing. Isn't it? I challenged. Victoria, why did you come to my house 2 days ago when I wasn't here? Why did you photograph all my belongings? Why were you on the phone with Marcus discussing how much money you'd each get when you sold my things? Victoria's face went pale. How did you? Were you spying on me? This is my house, I said. I have every right to have security cameras, and those cameras caught you trespassing and planning to steal from me. We're not trying to steal from you, Marcus said. We're trying to protect you. Protect me, I said, or protect your inheritance. Both, Linda said bluntly. Mom, you're 72. You're not going to live forever. That money should go to your children, not get wasted on your selfish whims. The honesty of it was almost refreshing. At least Linda was admitting what this was really about. My selfish whims, I repeated. You mean like wanting to enjoy my own life, like wanting to travel and help people and live fully while I still can. You should be thinking about us, Victoria said. About your grandchildren, about your family. I am thinking about my grandchildren, I said. I set up education trusts for all of them. They'll have money for college. But you three, you're adults. You have careers. You should be supporting yourselves, not waiting for me to die so you can inherit. We're not waiting for you to die, Marcus said. But again, he didn't sound convincing. Then what are you doing here? I asked. Why did all three of you come when I specifically said I wanted to talk to Victoria alone? They exchanged glances. Something passed between them. A decision. Mom, Victoria said slowly, we've filed a petition with the court. We're asking to be appointed as your legal guardians. We have evidence that you're not competent to make your own decisions anymore. I know, I said. I heard Marcus's voicemail, the one he left on my home phone 2 weeks ago, explaining your whole plan. Marcus's eyes widened. You heard that? Every word, I confirmed. I know you're planning to have me declared incompetent. I know you want to sell my house and take control of my finances. I know this is all about money, not about concern for my well-being. That's not true, Victoria insisted, but she looked shaken. Mom, you're not thinking clearly, Linda said. That's why we need to do this, for your own good. For my own good, I said, my voice rising. How is it for my own good to take away my freedom, to sell my house, to control my life? Because you can't be trusted to take care of yourself anymore, Marcus said. The fall proved that. Something in the way he said it made me suspicious. What do you know about the fall? Marcus hesitated. What do you mean? I mean, I don't remember falling, I said slowly. I don't remember anything about that morning. And Victoria, you just happened to show up at my house at exactly the right time to find me. Doesn't that seem convenient? Are you accusing me of something? Victoria asked, her voice dangerous. I'm saying it's suspicious, I said. I'm saying I don't trust any of you anymore. That's the paranoia we're talking about, Linda said. Mom, can't you hear yourself? You sound crazy. I sound crazy, I said. Or do I sound like someone who's finally seeing the truth about her children? Victoria suddenly reached into Linda's large purse and pulled out some papers. Mom, we need you to sign these. What are they? I asked, though I had a feeling I knew. They're power of attorney documents, Victoria said. If you sign them now, voluntarily, we can avoid the court hearing. We can handle this privately as a family. You want me to voluntarily sign over control of my life to you, I said. We're asking you to trust us, Marcus said. We're your children, we love you, we just want to help. No, I said firmly, I'm not signing anything. Mom, don't make this harder than it has to be, Victoria said, stepping closer to me. She was still holding the papers. Get out of my house, I said. This is going to be our house soon, Linda said. Once we have guardianship, we're selling it, so you might as well get used to the idea. I said get out, I repeated, louder this time. We're not leaving until you sign these papers, Victoria said, her voice hard. That's when I realized I might be in danger. They were desperate. All three of them were in serious financial trouble, and I was the only thing standing between them and over $1 million. I backed toward the door. I'm leaving, and I'm calling the police. You're not going anywhere, Marcus said, moving to block the door. That's when Margaret burst through the front door. She'd been watching from the car and had seen Marcus block me in. Eleanor, are you okay? Margaret demanded. She's fine, Victoria said quickly. We're just having a family discussion. It doesn't look like a discussion, Margaret said. It looks like you're trapping her. This is none of your business, Linda snapped. It became my business when you started threatening my friend, Margaret said. She pulled out her cell phone. I'm calling the police. Don't you dare, Victoria said. But Margaret was already dialing. Yes, I'd like to report a disturbance. 3 people are threatening an elderly woman and won't let her leave her own home. We're not threatening her, Marcus protested. She's our mother. While they were distracted arguing with Margaret, I slipped past Marcus and out the front door. I ran to Margaret's car and got in, locking the doors. A moment later, Margaret came out too, still on the phone with the police. My 3 children followed her out, looking angry and frustrated. The police are on their way, Margaret announced loudly. Victoria's face darkened. Mom, this is a mistake. You're making enemies of your own children. You made enemies of yourselves, I said through the car window, when you decided my money was more important than my life. Police sirens sounded in the distance, getting closer. We need to go, Linda said urgently to her siblings. This isn't over, Victoria said, glaring at me. We'll see you in court, Mom, and we're going to win. They got in their cars and drove away quickly, not wanting to be there when the police arrived. A minute later, 2 police cars pulled up. Margaret and I explained what had happened. The officers took statements and noted that my children had been trespassing and had tried to prevent me from leaving. Do you want to press charges? One officer asked. I thought about it. Part of me still hesitated to go that far. These were my children. But they'd just tried to intimidate me into signing away my freedom. They'd blocked me from leaving my own house. They'd made me feel afraid. Yes, I said. I want to press charges for trespassing and attempted coercion, and I want a restraining order against all 3 of them. The officer nodded. We'll file the reports, and ma'am, I'd recommend you don't come back to this house alone. Your children sound desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. Back at Margaret's house, I was shaking. From fear, from anger, from the adrenaline of what had just happened. That was terrifying, I admitted to Margaret. But necessary, Margaret said firmly. Eleanor, now you have witnesses to their behavior. Now you have a police report. Now everyone will know they're not concerned about your well-being. They're trying to coerce you. Denise called a few minutes later. I got it all on camera, she said, excitement in her voice. Every word they said, threatening to sell your house, trying to force you to sign papers, blocking you from leaving. Mrs. Hayes, this is exactly what we needed. Is it enough? I asked. Is it enough to win in court? It's enough to destroy their case, Denise said confidently. We have financial records showing their desperation. We have video of them trespassing. We have recordings of them discussing selling your assets. We have medical evaluations showing you're completely competent. And now we have them on camera trying to coerce you. No judge is going to grant them guardianship after seeing all this. Good, I said, because I'm ready to end this. I'm ready to face them in court and make sure they never have power over me. There's one more thing I think you should consider, Denise said carefully. After what happened today, Mrs. Hayes, I think you should file criminal charges, not just for trespassing, for elder abuse, for attempted exploitation, for conspiracy to commit fraud. Criminal charges, I repeated. Denise, they're my children. They're adults who are trying to steal from you, Denise said bluntly. Mrs. Hayes, if this was a stranger doing what your children are doing, you wouldn't hesitate. Don't let the fact that they're family stop you from protecting yourself. She was right. I knew she was right. But the thought of sending my own children to jail. Let me think about it, I said quietly. That night, I lay awake in Margaret's guest room, thinking about everything that had happened. About my 3 children who'd spent the last year obsessing over my money. Who'd tried to manipulate me into signing over power of attorney. Who'd caused, or at least taken advantage of my mysterious fall. Who'd tried to force me to sign papers just hours ago. These weren't my children anymore. These were strangers who wanted my money and were willing to destroy me to get it. And I couldn't let them win. The next morning, I called Mr. Harrison. File the criminal charges, I said. All of them. I want my children held accountable for what they've tried to do. Are you absolutely certain? Mr. Harrison asked. I'm certain, I said firmly. They betrayed me for money. Now they need to face the consequences. I'll file the charges today, Mr. Harrison said. Mrs. Hayes, you're doing the right thing. This isn't just about you. It's about stopping them from doing this to someone else someday. An hour later, Mr. Harrison called me back. The criminal charges have been filed, and Mrs. Hayes, I have some news. The court hearing for their guardianship petition has been moved up. It's now scheduled for this Friday, 3 days from now. Why was it moved up? I asked. My guess, your children's lawyer knows their case is falling apart, Mr. Harrison said. They're trying to rush it through before all our evidence becomes public, but it's not going to work. We're ready, and Mrs. Hayes, we're going to win. Friday, 3 days from now, the day that would decide my future. The day I'd face my children in court and prove to a judge that I was competent to control my own life. The day my family would either be restored or destroyed forever. And as I hung up the phone, I realized something. Whatever happened on Friday, whatever the judge decided, I'd already lost something priceless. I'd lost my children, not to death, but to greed, and that loss hurt more than anything money could ever heal. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Friday morning arrived cold and gray, the kind of day that matched my mood perfectly. I stood in Margaret's bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror. I was wearing a navy blue dress suit, professional, dignified, strong. Margaret had helped me style my gray hair. I looked like someone who was completely in control of her faculties. Because today, I had to prove that I was. Are you ready? Margaret asked from the doorway. No, I admitted, but I don't have a choice. The courthouse was a 40-minute drive from Margaret's house. Mr. Harrison met us in the parking lot, along with Denise, the private investigator. Everything is prepared, Mr. Harrison assured me as we walked toward the courthouse entrance. We have all our evidence organized. Dr. Chen will be testifying about your cognitive evaluation. Denise will present the financial records and video evidence, and you'll testify about what your children have done. What if the judge doesn't believe me? I asked, voicing the fear that had kept me awake all night. The judge will believe you, Mr. Harrison said firmly, because we have proof, not just your word against theirs, but documented evidence, video recordings, financial records, medical evaluations, the truth, Eleanor, and the truth is on your side. We entered the courthouse and went through security. Then we walked down the long hallway to courtroom 7. My 3 children were already there, sitting on a bench outside the courtroom with their lawyer, a man named Richard Klein. Klein was in his 50s, expensive suit, slicked back hair, the kind of lawyer who charged $500 an hour. Victoria saw me first. She stood up, and for a moment I thought she might say something. Apologize, maybe, or try one last time to convince me to give up. But she just stared at me with cold eyes. Marcus and Linda stood up too, flanking her, united against me. My children, the Bobbies I'd rocked to sleep, the children I'd raised, the adults who now looked at me like I was the enemy. Good morning, Mrs. Hayes, Klein said smoothly, walking over. It's not too late to settle this privately. If you'd be willing to sit down with me and my clients, I'm sure we could come to an arrangement that works for everyone. No, I said simply. Mrs. Hayes, I don't think you understand the seriousness of this situation, Klein continued. If this goes before a judge, your family's private matters will become public record. Wouldn't it be better to handle this quietly? What you mean is, wouldn't it be better for your clients if I just gave up without a fight? I said. The answer is no, Mr. Klein. I'll see you in court. Klein's pleasant expression slipped for just a moment, revealing irritation beneath. As you wish. But Mrs. Hayes, I should warn you, we have a very strong case. And when we win, your children will have full legal authority over your life. Wouldn't you prefer to maintain at least some dignity and control by compromising now? The only thing I prefer, I said coldly, is for you to stop talking to me. You represent my children, not me. Anything you have to say can be said in front of the judge. Mr. Harrison stepped forward. My client has made her position clear, Mr. Klein. We'll see you inside. We walked past them into the courtroom. I could feel my children's eyes on my back, but I didn't turn around. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. Wood-paneled walls, rows of benches, the judge's bench elevated at the front. It looked like every courtroom I'd ever seen on TV, but being there in person was different, more intimidating, more real. Mr. Harrison and I sat at the respondents' table on the left side of the courtroom. Denise sat in the gallery behind us, along with Margaret and a few other people I recognized, friends from my book club who'd come to support me. My children sat at the petitioner's table on the right side with Mr. Klein. Behind them in the gallery, I noticed there was no one, no friends, no supporters, just empty benches. At exactly 10 a.m., the bailiff called out, "All rise, the Honorable Judge Patricia Morrison presiding." Everyone stood as Judge Morrison entered. She was a woman in her early 60s with silver hair pulled back in a bun and sharp, intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She looked like someone who didn't tolerate nonsense. "Please be seated," Judge Morrison said, settling into her chair and opening the case file in front of her. "We're here for case number 2024, PR 1847, in the matter of Victoria Hayes, Marcus Hayes, and Linda Hayes petitioning for legal guardianship over Eleanor Hayes. Is everyone present and ready to proceed?" "Yes, Your Honor," Mr. Klein said. "Yes, Your Honor," Mr. Harrison echoed. Judge Morrison looked over her glasses at all of us. "Before we begin, I want to make something very clear. Guardianship is a serious matter. It removes fundamental rights from an individual, the right to control their own finances, make their own decisions, live where they choose. Courts do not grant guardianship lightly. The burden of proof is on the petitioners to show by clear and convincing evidence that Ms. Eleanor Hayes is incapable of managing her own affairs." She looked directly at my children. "This is not about what's convenient for you. This is not about inheritance or money. This is about whether your mother is truly unable to care for herself. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," Klein answered for them. "Good," Judge Morrison said. "Mr. Klein, you may present your case." Mr. Klein stood up and approached the bench with a folder of papers. "Your Honor, my clients come before you today out of genuine concern for their mother's well-being. Eleanor Hayes is 72 years old. Over the past year, she has exhibited increasingly erratic and concerning behavior." He pulled out documents and began citing examples. In September, Mrs. Hayes announced she was selling her house, a house she'd lived in for 40 years, and spending her entire estate, approximately $1.2 million, on herself. She refused to discuss this decision with her children or consider the impact on her family. In October, Mrs. Hayes had a serious fall in her home, resulting in 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and a concussion. After this fall, instead of accepting help from her children, she disappeared. She refused to tell her family where she was staying or allow them to help her recover. Since then, Mrs. Hayes has accused her children of various things, spying on her, trying to harm her, caring only about her money. She's filed restraining orders against her own children. She's become paranoid and hostile toward the people who love her most. Klein paused for effect. "Your Honor, these are not the actions of someone thinking clearly. These are the actions of someone who needs help, someone who needs their family to step in and protect them from themselves." "Do you have any witnesses?" Judge Morrison asked. "Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call Victoria Hayes to the stand." Victoria stood up and walked to the witness stand. The bailiff swore her in, and she sat down, looking composed and concerned, the picture of a worried daughter. "Victoria, can you tell the court about your mother's recent behavior?" Klein asked. "It's been very concerning," Victoria said, her voice trembling slightly. "My mother has always been independent and strong, but over the past year she's changed. She's become suspicious of everyone. She thinks we're trying to harm her, which is ridiculous. We're her children. We love her." "Can you tell the court about the fall?" Klein asked. "I found her at the bottom of her stairs," Victoria said. She'd been lying there for hours. She was unconscious. She could have died. And when she woke up in the hospital, she couldn't even remember what happened. That's when I knew something was really wrong. Did you try to help her after the fall? Klein asked. Of course, Victoria said. I offered to have her stay with me while she recovered. I tried to make sure she had the medical support she needed, but she refused. She snuck out of the hospital with a friend and disappeared for 2 weeks. We had no idea where she was or if she was okay. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Do you know how terrifying that was? Not knowing if your mother is alive or dead. We just want to help her, but she won't let us. Thank you, Victoria, Klein said. No further questions. Judge Morrison looked at Mr. Harrison. Cross-examination. Mr. Harrison stood up. Yes, Your Honor. He walked toward Victoria with a calm, measured expression. Ms. Hayes, you say you were concerned about your mother's well-being. Is that correct? Yes, Victoria said. Were you also concerned about your mother's money? Mr. Harrison asked. Victoria looked startled. What? No, this isn't about money. Isn't it? Mr. Harrison pulled out a document. Ms. Hayes, I have your business financial records here. According to these records, you're approximately $300,000 in debt. Is that accurate? Victoria's face flushed. That's private information. That has nothing to do with this case. It has everything to do with this case, Mr. Harrison said. You're in serious financial trouble, and your mother has $1.2 million that you stand to inherit. Isn't it true that you've been pressuring your mother to give you access to that money? I've never pressured her for anything, Victoria said, but she sounded defensive. Really? Mr. Harrison pulled out another document, a transcript of the video from my house. This is a recording from October 15th. You were at your mother's house, without her permission, I might add. You were on the phone with your brother Marcus. Would you like me to read what you said? Victoria went pale. I don't remember that conversation. Let me refresh your memory, Mr. Harrison said. You said, and I quote, the house should sell for $800,000. After we split it 3 ways, that's over $250,000 each. Plus her investment accounts, we could each walk away with $500,000. That would solve all our problems. The courtroom was silent. Does that sound like someone concerned about their mother's well-being? Mr. Harrison asked. Or someone concerned about their mother's money? I was just discussing possibilities, Victoria stammered. You were planning how to divide your mother's estate while she's still alive, Mr. Harrison said flatly. Ms. Hayes, isn't it true that you're not trying to protect your mother? You're trying to access her money because you're drowning in debt. No, Victoria said, but her voice was weak. No further questions, Mr. Harrison said, returning to our table. Victoria stepped down from the witness stand, looking shaken. She avoided looking at me as she returned to her seat. Klein called Marcus next, then Linda. But Mr. Harrison cross-examined them just as effectively, presenting their financial records and exposing their desperation. By the time all 3 of my children had testified, it was clear their case was falling apart. After lunch, it was our turn. Mr. Harrison stood and addressed the court. Your Honor, the petitioners have painted a picture of a confused, incompetent elderly woman who needs to be protected from herself. I'm going to show you the truth, that Eleanor Hayes is a sharp, capable woman whose only crime is wanting to enjoy her own life and her own money, and that her children's real motivation isn't concern, but greed. He called Dr. Chen to the stand first. Dr. Chen explained the comprehensive cognitive evaluation he'd conducted. Mrs. Hayes scored in the top percentile for her age group on every test, Dr. Chen testified. Her memory is excellent. Her reasoning is sound. Her understanding of her financial situation is clear and realistic. There is absolutely no medical evidence of dementia, cognitive decline, or any condition that would impair her ability to make her own decisions. In your professional opinion, Mr. Harrison asked, is there any reason Mrs. Hayes should not be allowed to manage her own affairs? None whatsoever, Dr. Chen said firmly. In fact, I would say she's more competent than many people half her age. Klein tried to cross-examine, suggesting that Dr. Chen's tests might not have caught early signs of dementia, but Dr. Chen shut that down quickly. I've been doing these evaluations for 30 years. I know what dementia looks like in its early stages. Mrs. Hayes doesn't have it. Next, Mr. Harrison called Denise to the stand. She presented all the evidence we'd gathered, the videos of my children trespassing in my house, the recordings of their conversations about selling my assets, the financial records showing their desperation. In your professional opinion as an investigator, Mr. Harrison asked, what is the true motivation behind this guardianship petition? Money, Denise said bluntly. All three of the petitioners are in serious financial trouble. They see their mother's estate as the solution to their problems. This petition isn't about protecting Mrs. Hayes. It's about gaining access to her money. Finally, Mr. Harrison called me to the stand. I walked to the witness stand on shaking legs. The bailiff swore me in, and I sat down, facing the courtroom, facing my children. Mrs. Hayes, Mr. Harrison began gently, can you tell the court why you decided to sell your house and spend your money on yourself? I took a deep breath. Because I'm 72 years old and I might have another 10 or 20 years to live, and I want to enjoy those years. I want to travel. I want to help people I care about. I want to live fully while I still can. Is that really so wrong? Did you ever say you wouldn't leave anything to your children? Mr. Harrison asked. No, I said. I said I was going to spend my money while I'm alive, and they'd inherit whatever is left. I also set up education trusts for my grandchildren, $100,000 each. I'm not leaving my family with nothing. I'm just choosing to enjoy my money instead of hoarding it for an inheritance. Can you tell the court about your fall? Mr. Harrison asked. I don't remember it, I admitted. I remember starting to go downstairs, and then I woke up in the hospital. The doctors said memory loss is normal with a concussion. But what I do remember is waking up and immediately being pressured by my children to sign papers giving them medical power of attorney. That didn't feel like concern. That felt like opportunism. Why did you leave the hospital without telling your children where you were going? Mr. Harrison asked. Because I was afraid, I said honestly. 6 months ago, I overheard my children discussing getting power of attorney over me at my birthday party. They tried to get me to sign guardianship papers. After my fall, they were telling doctors I had memory problems, which isn't true. I felt like they were building a case against me, trying to prove I was incompetent so they could control my money. So yes, I left. I went to stay with my friend where I felt safe. Mrs. Hayes, do you love your children? Mr. Harrison asked gently. Tears filled my eyes. Of course I do. They're my children. I raised them. I sacrificed everything for them. But loving them doesn't mean I have to let them take advantage of me. Loving them doesn't mean I have to give up my freedom and my rights just because they want my money. Mr. Harrison nodded. No further questions. Klein stood up for cross-examination. Mrs. Hayes, you claim your children are motivated by greed, but isn't it possible they're genuinely concerned about you? If they were genuinely concerned, I said, they would have respected my decisions. They would have supported me instead of trying to control me. They would have asked what I needed instead of deciding what they think I need. You filed restraining orders against your own children, Klein said. Doesn't that seem extreme? They were trespassing in my house, I said. They were photographing my belongings to catalog what they could sell. They tried to force me to sign papers. I filed restraining orders because I felt threatened, because I was being threatened. Klein tried several more questions, but I held my ground. Finally, he gave up and I stepped down from the stand. Both sides gave their closing arguments. Klein painted me as a confused elderly woman in denial about her declining faculties. Mr. Harrison painted my children as greedy opportunists trying to steal from their own mother. Finally, Judge Morrison leaned back in her chair and looked at all of us. I'm going to be very direct, Judge Morrison said. I've presided over many guardianship cases. Some are heartbreaking, families genuinely trying to protect a loved one who can no longer protect themselves. But this case is not one of those. She looked at my children. What I see here is 3 adult children in financial trouble who view their mother as a bank account. I've reviewed all the evidence. The financial records showing your debts. The videos showing you trespassing and discussing how to divide your mother's assets. The recordings of you planning to sell her house and control her life. The evidence is clear. This petition is not about protecting Eleanor Hayes. It's about accessing her money. Victoria started to speak, but Judge Morrison held up her hand. I've also reviewed the medical evidence. Dr. Chen's evaluation is unequivocal. There is nothing wrong with Eleanor Hayes's cognitive functioning. She is fully capable of managing her own affairs. The fact that she's making decisions you don't agree with doesn't mean she's incompetent. It means she has different priorities than you do. Judge Morrison looked at me with what I thought might be sympathy. Mrs. Hayes has every right to spend her own money however she chooses. She has every right to enjoy her life. She has every right to make decisions about her own care. The fact that those decisions don't benefit her adult children financially is irrelevant. Judge Morrison picked up her gavel. The petition for guardianship is denied. Eleanor Hayes will maintain full control over her person and her estate. Furthermore, I'm going to recommend that the district attorney review this case for possible charges of attempted elder abuse and financial exploitation. She banged the gavel. Court is adjourned. I sat in stunned relief. We'd won. I'd won. My children sat frozen at their table. Victoria was crying. Marcus looked angry. Linda just stared at the table in front of her. Mr. Harrison squeezed my shoulder. It's over, Eleanor. You're free. In the hallway outside the courtroom, my children and Klein stood in a cluster, talking in low, angry voices. I could hear fragments. Should have won. Your fault for being so obvious. Now she's never going to leave us anything. Margaret and my friends from book club surrounded me, hugging me, congratulating me. But I couldn't take my eyes off my children. Finally, Victoria looked up and saw me watching. For a moment, our eyes met across the hallway. I waited for, I don't know what, an apology, an acknowledgement of what they'd done. But Victoria just turned away and walked toward the exit, Marcus and Linda following her. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't say anything. They just left. And I realized in that moment that I'd won the case, but I'd lost something far more valuable. I'd lost my children, not to death, but to greed. And that loss was something no amount of money could ever replace. 6 months after the court hearing, I was living in a beautiful condo overlooking the ocean. I'd sold my old house, the house full of memories of raising my children, because I couldn't bear to live there anymore. I'd traveled to Italy and France. I'd volunteered with a charity that built schools in developing countries. I'd donated $200,000 to causes I cared about. I was living the life I'd wanted to live. But I was living it alone. My children had never contacted me after the court hearing, not once in 6 months. No calls, no emails, no attempts at reconciliation. I'd reached out to them once, about a month after the hearing. I'd sent emails to all 3, saying I was willing to talk if they were ready to have an honest conversation about what had happened. Only Linda had responded. Her email was 2 sentences long. Mom, you humiliated us in court. You chose money over your own children. I don't think there's anything to talk about. I'd stared at that email for a long time. You chose money over your own children. That's what she thought, that I'd chosen money over them. But that wasn't what happened. They had chosen money over me. They'd been willing to take away my freedom, my rights, my dignity, all for money. And when they couldn't do that, they'd walked away. I'd tried to explain this in my response email, but Linda never replied. My grandchildren's education trusts were still in place. When they turned 18, they'd have money for college. But I hadn't seen my grandchildren in 6 months. My children had cut me off from them completely. That hurt more than anything. Margaret came over one afternoon and found me sitting on my condo balcony, staring at the ocean. You're thinking about them, Margaret said. It wasn't a question. Always, I admitted. I wonder if I did the right thing, if I should have just given them what they wanted, if keeping my money was worth losing my family. Eleanor, they're the ones who chose money over family, Margaret said firmly. Not you. You chose your dignity and your freedom. They chose to walk away when they couldn't control you. I know, I said, but it doesn't make it hurt less. No, Margaret agreed. It doesn't. We sat in silence for a while. Do you regret it? Margaret finally asked, fighting back. I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I said eventually. Because if I'd given in, if I'd let them have guardianship over me, I'd have lost myself. I'd have become a prisoner in my own life. At least this way, I'm free. I'm living on my own terms. And maybe someday they'll understand. Maybe someday they'll realize what they threw away. Maybe, Margaret said, though she didn't sound convinced. 1 year after the court hearing, I received a letter. It came to my condo, forwarded from my lawyer's office. The return address was from Linda. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Part of me was afraid of what it might say. More accusations, more blame. But I opened it anyway. Inside was a 3-page handwritten letter. I recognized Linda's handwriting immediately. Dear Mom, I'm writing this letter because I've spent the past year in therapy, and my therapist says I need to make amends to the people I've hurt. You're at the top of that list. I'm not writing to ask for money. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I'm writing to say I'm sorry. You were right about everything. We were obsessed with your money. We saw you as an inheritance instead of as a person. We tried to take away your freedom because we thought we deserved your money more than you deserved your life. That's sick. I see that now. My husband and I lost our house. We declared bankruptcy. We had to start over from nothing. And you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because when I lost everything, I finally understood what really matters. And it's not money. I miss you, Mom. I miss Sunday dinners. I miss our phone calls. I miss being your daughter instead of being someone who saw you as a bank account. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I destroyed our relationship. But I wanted you to know, I finally understand what I did. I finally see how wrong I was, and I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry. I hope you're happy. I hope you're living the life you wanted. You deserve that. If you ever want to talk, my number hasn't changed. But if you don't, I understand. I'll respect whatever decision you make. I love you, Mom. I always did, even when I was too blinded by greed to show it. Linda. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. An apology, a real, genuine apology, not asking for anything, just acknowledging what she'd done and taking responsibility. It was more than I'd ever expected. I sat down at my desk and pulled out a piece of paper, and I wrote back. Dear Linda, thank you for your letter. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for finally seeing the truth. I forgive you. It doesn't mean I forget what happened. It doesn't mean our relationship can go back to what it was. But I forgive you. Because you're my daughter and I love you. I always have. I would like to talk. I would like to try to rebuild something between us. Not what we had before, that's gone. But something new, something honest, something built on respect instead of obligation. Call me when you're ready. Mom. I mailed the letter that afternoon. 3 days later, Linda called. We talked for 2 hours. It was awkward at first, both of us feeling our way through this new relationship. But it was also healing. Have you heard from Victoria or Marcus? I asked toward the end of the call. No, Linda said. They're still angry, still blaming you. I've tried to talk to them, but they won't listen. They're convinced you owe them an inheritance and you're being selfish by spending your own money. Maybe they'll come around eventually, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. Maybe, Linda said. But Mom, even if they don't, I'm here. I want to be your daughter again, if you'll let me. I'd like that, I said, meaning it. 2 years after the court case, I sat in a restaurant with Linda and her daughter, my granddaughter Sophie, who was now 15. It was Sophie's birthday, and Linda had asked if I wanted to join them for dinner. I'd said yes immediately. Grandma, can I ask you something? Sophie said as we waited for our food. Of course, sweetheart, I said. My friends at school say you're rich, Sophie said. They say you have like $1 million. Is that true? Linda looked uncomfortable, but I just laughed. I have some money, yes. Are you going to leave it all to me when you die? Sophie asked with the bluntness only teenagers can manage. Sophie, Linda said, mortified, that's not appropriate. It's okay, I interrupted. Sophie, I'm going to tell you the same thing I wish I'd told your mother and aunt and uncle when they were younger. Money doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you successful. It doesn't make you loved. Sophie looked confused. But isn't money important? Money is a tool, I said. It can make life easier. It can help you do things you want to do, but it can't replace relationships. It can't replace love, and it can't make you a good person. I looked at Linda, who was watching me with tears in her eyes. I'm going to leave you some money, Sophie, I continued. Your education trust is still there. And yes, when I die, you and your mom will inherit some money. But I'm also going to spend a lot of it while I'm alive, because I've learned that experiences are worth more than bank accounts, that helping people is worth more than accumulating wealth, that living is worth more than saving. That makes sense, Sophie said thoughtfully. After dinner, as Linda walked me to my car, she said, "Thank you for that, for being honest with Sophie about money." I should have been more honest with you three when you were younger, I said. Maybe if I'd taught you better about what money really means, things would have turned out differently. You did teach us, Linda said. We just didn't listen. We got greedy. That's not your fault, Mom. That's on us. Have you heard anything from Victoria or Marcus? I asked. It was a question I asked every few months. Linda shook her head. Victoria is still angry. Marcus is still convinced he was right. They talk to each other, but they won't talk about you. It's like they've decided you're the villain in their story, and nothing will change their minds. Maybe nothing will, I said sadly. Maybe I've lost them forever. Maybe, Linda said. But Mom, you didn't lose them. They lost you. They lost a mother who loved them. They lost a grandmother for their children. They lost family. They lost something priceless. And they threw it away for money they never even got. She was right. My children had betrayed me for money. They'd tried to steal my freedom, my dignity, my life, all for an inheritance. But in the end, they'd lost something far more valuable. They'd lost me. They'd lost our relationship. They'd lost the family we could have been. And no amount of money could ever replace that. As I drove home that night, I thought about the title of my story. My family betrayed me for money and lost something priceless. The priceless thing they'd lost wasn't my money. It wasn't an inheritance. It was love, it was family, it was me. And that loss would haunt them for the rest of their lives, far longer than any amount of money ever could. I'd won my freedom, I'd won my dignity, I'd won my life. But I'd also lost 2 of my 3 children, and no victory could make that loss feel like anything but devastation. Still, I'd made my choice, and I'd do it again. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather be free and alone than imprisoned and surrounded by people who only loved my money. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 74 years old, and I'm living my life on my own terms. That's worth more than any inheritance, more than any amount of money. It's worth everything. This story proves that. Sparkle's money reveals character. It doesn't build it. Sparkle's adult children don't automatically deserve inheritance. Sparkle's loving someone doesn't mean enabling their greed. Sparkle's your life and money are yours, even from family. Sparkle's elder abuse happens in good families too. Sparkle's standing up for yourself is worth the cost. Sparkle's some relationships can't survive choosing yourself. Sparkle's freedom and dignity matter more than money. If this story moved you, white heavy checkmark subscribe for more powerful family drama stories. White heavy checkmark smash that like button. White heavy checkmark turn on NOTIFICATONS. Drop a comment. Was Eleanor right to spend her own money? Should she forgive Victoria and Marcus? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, Jamaica, South Africa, Trinidad, Philippines. Remember, your money is yours to enjoy. Adult children are not entitled to inheritance. Elder abuse includes financial exploitation. Fighting back against family is valid. Guardianship petitions can be weapons of greed. Document everything if feeling threatened. Stand up for your dignity no matter who challenges it. Cognitive competence matters more than age. Some family members love money more than you. Reconciliation requires genuine remorse, not just words. You can rebuild with those who truly change. Living your life fully is not selfish. Freedom and respect are priceless. Thank you for following Eleanor's journey from betrayal to freedom.